Hi there, folks. I'm here today with a guy called Steve Light, and we're going to go into a bit about his life, his history, and the kind of things he's doing these days. It's quite an interesting story. Basically, Steve, you used to suffer from what's called social anxiety. Is that the correct term for it?
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of like an acute shyness, if you will. It's like being avoidant of situations that most people take for granted. Yeah, so it's relatively unknown still, but around 10% of the population have it, whether they know it or not. It's just it was useful to put a name to the way I was feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that is commonly known, as you say, the social anxiety, and actually 10% is quite a large number. I'm quite surprised at that, because I've heard you describe the symptoms in the past, and if 10% of the population is going through that, then there's a lot of fear and anxiety out there then.
Yeah, definitely. Well, especially with, the stress of recession and everything else that's going on, busier lifestyles and all that. People are getting more anxious and stressed out, so I see it that, you could be afraid of many different situations. You could just be afraid of doing presentations at work or in meetings. It's such a wide spectrum, but I found, in my life it affected me going out and actually looking for a job and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of felt uncomfortable in my own skin. I just didn't want to, be around people that much, and hang around with a few close friends and all that, but meeting new people was just felt too uncomfortable.
Okay, let's go into this a wee bit. Can you tell us about your own particular life then, and when did you first start noticing these things? And has it always been with you, or is it something that came maybe as a teenager when you're having puberty, you can change then? How did it start for you?
Well, it started, I can remember right back until, I was 2 years old.
2 years old?
Quite a traumatic. Yeah, it was because the memory is so strong that I could remember it. It was quite traumatic for a child. I basically got lost from my parents. It sounds like a trivial thing, but I was at like where was it? Blackpool. I was on holiday, and they have like those amusement arcades, and this was like a massive one. From what I remember, but I was small, so anything was massive.
Yeah.
But I remember I was just toddling along, and then I turned around and my parents weren't there.
Yeah.
And I just went into total panic and started crying, and just felt so sick and didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that at that moment I kind of clung to my parents a lot more, and that was kind of the start. That was like the earliest memory that kind of brought these feelings on. And then I think it was a couple of years later, we were on a holiday to Butlins, and we're in like it was like a family disco where the standard entertainment you get in the evenings. We went along to this disco thing, and I remember all these kids running around playing, and I just felt too scared to go and join in. I was just clinging to my dad. I didn't want to go and play with them.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like, there's just total terror there. And I remember I was just with my dad at the time, and my mum came back because she went to bingo or something. And I was telling my mum that, I was really afraid of playing with the children. I got the sense that she didn't understand, so I kind of felt like my parents didn't understand how I was feeling, and those two experiences kind of shaped my life, I guess, because I became really shy and quiet, and the more people said that I was shy and quiet, I kind of fit into that role of being a shy and quiet person, and never spoke up, never picked up the phone at home. I remember running away from the phone when it rang. If people, family turned up, I'd run upstairs and hide and all that kind of stuff. So it was a very young age. I remember things happening, and then throughout school years, it was a case of, having a few close friends, but then struggling in any kind of group activities at school, reading out loud. I remember reading out loud and being really painfully aware of my voice, like the spotlight was on me and people were laughing and judging me. And yeah, that's when it began, really, from childhood. And I guess as I got older, I started to get more and more avoidant of like answering phones and things like that. If a close friend was ringing me to go out, I would ignore it because I just felt a fear of talking to the person. It was like I didn't have anything interesting to talk about. I remember it really affecting me. And then my friends were thinking, why is he not picking up the phone? What have I done wrong? So they're kind of worried that they've done something to upset me, but it's just, the way I was being. And, I found that impossible to tell anyone because it just sounded so weird to share that with any of my friends. It was, I guess because I didn't know, I just thought that was the way I was. I just didn't want to expose myself to anyone and explain how I was feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if it's happening to you, at this young age, and you've had these experiences, it's triggered off this thing, and then not being able to explain it to anybody, or nobody understanding. I'm assuming your parents maybe were saying, come on, sort yourself out, get out there and play with your friends, and just trying to tell you to do it, but they couldn't relate to this way you were feeling inside, so that again puts you more inside, and the longer that goes on, the more those habitual things continue, and the bigger it becomes in your mind then. So I can imagine it getting worse and worse as you're getting older, because you're continually hiding and you're never really facing up to it. So it sounds like a pretty bad place to be, actually. Yeah
it was. You're spot on with what you just said, because the more I avoided, the worse it got and the harder it got to actually do things. And I remember when I left school and everything, I wanted to go to university, but then over my childhood and teens I kind of avoided a lot of things, and the idea of going to university terrified me. Back to the feelings of when I was free, like joining in with kids at the disco. I had the same feeling of, shit, I'm going to have to move away from my parents, meet, all these strangers, have to, adjust to all these different things, and it just totally paralysed me from even applying to university. I remember looking at the university websites and seeing, all these kind of promotional photos of people having fun and in their dorm rooms and larking about and all that kind of stuff. I just couldn't picture myself being there. So I missed out on going to university at that age, and it kind of started to get worse then because I was doing jobs that I didn't want to do. I was working in factories and building sites and warehouses. I wanted to do some kind of design work, and I was doing all of this manual labour stuff just so I could avoid, talking to people on that kind of level that you do in an office environment. It was like, I could have a brief chat with people on a building site, but I could walk around and get on with stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, I did a year of that, and it was, things were okay. I was still going out socially with friends and getting drunk and all that kind of stuff. And then at the age of 19, I was working at a sorting office, and I was sat around a table and, stuffing envelopes. And I remember on the radio across the other side of the room, it said, there's like this advert, and it said, do you feel nervous in social situations? And it said, you may have social anxiety disorder. And I was like, that explains why I've been so weird over the past, all of my life. It was such a relief to know that, the way I was being wasn't, there's something recognisable and something that is treatable. So as soon as I got home, I looked on the internet and found that statistic that roughly 1 in 10 have these kind of issues, and then joined like this chat room and just made loads of friends with people online, and things started to get a bit better from then. But then I got the courage to go to college. Like I said, I missed university, but I went to a local college and did a web design course, but I could still live with my parents and it wouldn't be as intense as going to university. And the ironic thing about that was we had to do group work every single session near enough, and presentations, and I didn't think I'd have to do that. I thought I'd be getting away from that side of things. So the amount of times I ran out of class because all the tutor would say is, can you get into freeze now and discuss this piece of work? And I'd have panic set in and just run out of the class. Sometimes I'd leave my bag there. And I would laugh to myself after I've done it, 'cause I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? This is ridiculous. I knew it was irrational. I was kind of like, I wasn't like massively upset about it. I was just like, I was reacting to, the similar experience in the past at Butlins. And I attempted to do one presentation, as a group one, because I thought it'd be easier because there's 2 other people and we can just share the amount of speaking time. But that didn't really go well. I had some notes on the board and I tried reading them out, but my mind went blank still. I only had a couple of lines and I was just looking at them and my words wouldn't come out at all. It was like I just froze and I just said, sorry, I can't do this. And I just felt, really humiliated, and it was just not a nice feeling. So I told my tutor about
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that sounds, I don't know, if you're in a classroom there and you're saying several times that you stand up and you just actually run out of the classroom, but then you've got to come back and face those people again, yeah? And then you're doing it again all the time. So did people just accept that as part of you, or did you try and explain yourself?
Well, I just made up lies why I left.
Well, that's the
I don't think anyone noticed. Everyone was getting on with their stuff, really. I just said I had to go and do something. No one, it wasn't a big deal to anyone else. You're right. Looking back, I was making it more difficult for myself by doing that rather than facing it. But it was like a reaction at the time. It was so painful that I had to run away.
Yeah, it's basically you had all these emotions getting triggered off in yourself, and basically that was your only way of coping with it, was to escape, yeah?
Yeah.
So you didn't know how else
it's like
you could...
fight or flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the fight or flight response. If I saw a tiger outside, I would have that same feeling and run away.
Yeah.
And I was feeling that way having to do presentation or group work. So the mechanism was trying to save me, but it's not useful. Yeah. It wasn't useful at all. It wasn't the life-threatening.
How did you feel inside yourself when you weren't with groups? When you're sitting by yourself during this period before you kind of got better. When you're sitting by yourself, are you comfortable, or are you still thinking, oh no, I'm this person, I'm that? Or was there times when you were perfectly all right? It's only with other people you felt kind of anxious, or is it just was it a consistent level of anxiety you're carrying all the time, or when you're by yourself, is that you okay? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, generally by myself I was okay. I guess I was okay if I was working on a computer and I was chatting to someone working on a computer next to me. That's fine, because there's not like a constraint of being in a group. It was like I could turn around and chat to someone and carry on working.
Yeah.
And I could. It goes without saying, if I was like out with friends and stuff, if I had a few drinks and that, I would be kind of okay chatting.
Yeah. So it's just really when there's some kind of extra stress then involved, like reading out in class or doing a presentation, is more when there's a little bit more group activity, is where it becomes a bit more prevalent.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess the group work at college was worrying about saying the right thing and knowing what I'm talking about. I guess if the pressure is off, I wouldn't be so anxious.
Right. So you heard this radio advert then, yeah, and you started communicating with people who were on this, had a similar kind of experience to yourself. So what led from that? Did that allow you to find somewhere to start getting help?
Yeah. So after that, I went to my GP. I was quite reluctant to go because I was embarrassed about talking about it. Because it didn't seem like, if you go with a medical, physical condition or something, you just go and tell them what's wrong and they try and fix it. If you say, yeah. But if I go and explain about this, I might be put on medication or whatever, or they won't know what it was.
Uh-huh.
So I printed out some stuff and brought it with me to help, and I showed the doctor, and he didn't know what the hell I was talking about.
Okay. Interesting.
I was quite annoyed about it at the time, but looking at it from my perspective now, the doctors can't know everything. They're there to provide a quick solution as possible. But he referred me to a counsellor, which was good, and just had 2 sessions with this counsellor, and it kind of helped. It was good to talk about it, but it didn't really do much. But it wasn't until I went to a support group in Bristol, for other people who had these kind of issues, that was when it really started to change. And it took me, I can't remember how long it was, but it was at least 2 years for me to get the courage to go along to this group. So I laugh about it so much now that people with this problem, well, I don't laugh about it for other people, but from my own point of view, that the very nature of the problem
keeps you away from the group.
Speaking to people and all that kind of stuff, and then you have to go out and do something to overcome it or whatever, and actually getting along to the group is like really the most difficult thing to start with, and I try and, in the group that I run now, I try to reassure people and try and make it as comfortable for them to come along, because I know how much time I spent attempting to come along to the group, because I was worrying about if I'd be made to talk in front of the group, if I would be the most nervous person there, all these thoughts going through my mind, which stopped me from going along.
I mean, that is an incredibly long time, 2 years, to contemplate that. It puts into perspective just exactly where you were in your own head at that time, Yeah,
that's the thing. That's not uncommon either. I meet so many people who've spent a couple of years plucking out the courage. I meet other people who found the group the night before and they just came along, and I think that's the best way to do it without thinking too much into it. Just come along. The worst that can happen is you'll feel nervous in an environment where people understand what it's like. So it's not. I would just say to anyone, if you did want to come along, just don't think about it. Just commit yourself to it and just do it.
So what did you get out of that particular group? When you first came along?
First of all, it was just a relief to be with other people who
could understand.
Who just understood how I was feeling. It kind of took it took a massive amount of pressure off myself, because I couldn't really tell anyone because I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the main thing, and I think that was the main thing for me, because I went only for about 6 sessions, and then I felt ready to go on to a new challenge.
That basically allowed you to say, okay, so I'm not a big massive freak, there's other people like me, this is a kind of illness, or I don't like the word disorder, but kind of there's symptoms of something that could in time
Yeah.
you could get over. So it was a little bit of light appeared at the end of the tunnel there. So
Yeah.
I don't know how long it was after the group, but eventually you went to a Paul McKenna NLP training course, yeah?
I did. Yeah, that was,
Back in my youth, I took a lot of LSD basically and went a bit mad myself and had some paranoid issues and stuff. And one thing I done was Buddhism, and then after that I done NLP. I done a couple of courses with Paul McKenna and Richard Bandler. It was quite useful.
okay.
So I was wondering how that helped you, the self-hypnosis. I know, because that seems to be the obvious thing that you're describing, that the hypnosis tapes, if you keep playing them, it kind of rewires your neural pathways in the brain and can get you thinking differently. Is that what happened to you? How did that benefit you?
Yeah, well, I think the benefit was, I don't even know if the technology there was the benefit for me at the time. I think the benefit was exposing myself to all those people, because I was on like a 7-day course and there was 300 people there.
Yep.
And
you do all these exercises and stuff, yeah? They kind of put you right in your comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. Working with other people, doing exercises, and I found a lot of the exercises useful. And I've read up more on it since, and it is definitely useful. But I think being there and exposing myself and having the courage to go on stage, got hypnotised by Richard Bandler on stage, which was amazing. He did like a request thing where you can write your problem on a piece of paper and hand it in.
All right.
So I wrote, "Please could you help with my social anxiety," and put it in the box. I didn't dream that it'd pick me out, and then I was just sat there on, I think it was the third day or something, and he read it out and I was like, oh shit, I scared the crap. I just sat there and it's just weird. It's surreal because I just sat there in my own little bubble, and then he just called my name out. I was like, fuck. He got me up on stage, and what he did was he hypnotised me, and then told me to go through all of the negative images that I was creating in my mind about the experiences I've had in the past, the negative ones, and he got me to turn them black and white and to shrink them into the distance.
Yep. And
because I felt so relaxed, there wasn't any effort on my part. I was kind of
just following him,
almost doing it automatically, and seeing these things disappear in the distance. And then he ended with quite a funny comment. I think he said, going back, I can't remember the exact words, but he said going back to the old ways of thinking, and he linked it to masturbating with sandpaper. So basically, not to go back to the negative thoughts, because it will remind you of that. It is hilarious, but I didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how much that worked.
Well, it's a useful tool, this NLP. To me, it allowed me to realise that we do actually have control over our mind much more than I thought we did previously, by this techniques. Like, when you think of something, you visualise this, okay, drain the colour out it, play it in reverse. You can make you much bigger and the other person much smaller in your mind's eye, Like when I go on stage, still to this day, I use some of those techniques. You can put an imaginary bubble around yourself and protect yourself, and kind of put all happy faces all over yourself, and then touch your fingers together, creates an anchor,
Yeah.
So that's what he was doing there. He was kind of like making you feel good and everything, and whenever you think about that, kind of giving you a repulsion away from wanting to do that again. I think it does.
Yeah, that's definitely it.
It does stick to a certain degree, but then you've still got to go and deal with real life at the same time, so it's a little bit of a help, but I guess it's a step on your path, yeah?
Yeah, because I felt amazing then, and just before I was leaving the stage, he grabbed my arm and then asked me to speak to the audience, and I I felt totally relaxed. I didn't have any nerves at all, and I just said to the audience, "You were having a good time," and they all cheered, and it was like, "Wow, this is cool."
Yeah. So even just that little memory
so
of that, you know, even just that little bit
Yeah.
of thing that you've done is something you can take away from that, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that was a good little touch. Yeah.
so how did it go on from there then? Because did you continually work on yourself to get better? I know you set up you got involved in a community project. I just wondered how the transfer went from you being like this and having this disorder, I don't know what you call it, like a illness or whatever. Do you think you've overcome that, or do you think through helping other people and setting these groups up, it's helping you to overcome and it's still always there in the background? And how did you go from like being thinking you were this way to stepping up to the plate to organising groups to help other people?
Yeah, well, after the NLP course, that was a great turning point in my life, and I always have that as something I've achieved. So that's like a reference point in my confidence that I've done that, and that's there. So then after that, I kind of was a bit annoyed that the high didn't carry on from the event, and I didn't practice any of the stuff after that, and that's what happens to most people.
Yep.
So I acknowledged that, and then I was just going out looking for different courses which would help me, and I went on a couple. Have you heard of Landmark Education? They got like a global coaching organisation, and I did a couple of their courses, and yeah, it was really useful, but some of it was a bit weird as well. But that's for another discussion. But anyway, it was a similar scenario as being in big groups and activities and stuff. And after every weekend seminar, I'd get a bit more from it and get more confident. And then I signed up to one of their courses over 3 months called the Leadership Program. And it is just over the month to work in teams and get the support from the leaders and stuff. And because I was passionate about helping people with social anxiety and all that kind of stuff, I wanted to set up an event where people would come along and try out different taster sessions. So
at this point, you were then ready to help other people, because it sounds like you were suffering from it at one point, but what made you want to help other people? How did that come about? You were interested in it?
It seemed to be a natural progression, and I think I had the idea I wanted to help people even just before I got to the support group. I knew that because I got so sick and tired of the way things were before then, I said I'd do whatever it took, and I would help other people to do the same. And I had that commitment, even though I didn't. Pardon?
That was in the background of your mind all the time, kind of down the road.
Yeah, it was in the background, definitely, because I made that commitment even though I didn't know how. And then when I was doing these courses, there was the standard course, then an advanced course, and then the progression was this self-expression course, which led on to community projects. So I gained confidence over those few years and felt ready to be able to give something back.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, after the first 8 weeks, I planned this big event and wanted to get 200 people there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so it was 4 weeks before the event date, November 2008, and I got invited to go and speak to Ruby Wax about my problems with social anxiety. And needless to say, I was terrified about going, but I knew I had to do it because it would be a good challenge. So I went along to meet her in Notting Hill to do this interview. And
can you tell me why Ruby Wax?
Yeah, well, Ruby Wax, over the past 5 years, she's been really open about her issues of depression and stuff. Because she had quite a serious period before where she had to go to the Priory Clinic and all that kind of stuff, and she came through it and wanted to give back and help other people. So what she was doing for the BBC was interviewing different people every week with different mental health issues. And she contacted me to go and speak to them about social anxiety. And it was through a contact of mine who runs his own group in London as well. He couldn't make it, so he basically sent the email to me, and I got the chance to go along. So yeah, on the day, I had it in my mind that I wanted Ruby to open the event because she'd be the perfect guest because she's open about these kind of things.
She's very entertaining as well.
Yeah, definitely that. So I went along and spoke to the producers and said, is it okay to speak to Ruby after and invite her to this event I've got going? And they basically said, well, she's probably too busy. And the old me would have said, oh, okay, I won't bother asking, I won't trouble her. But for some reason, because I was committed to this event happening, I knew that I wanted her to come along. So we went through the interview. I was pretty nervous, but I got on with it, and we got on really well, and it went pretty well. And then afterwards, I just said to her, look, Ruby, I'd love it if you could come and open this event I'm doing in 4 weeks' time. And she said yes, I'd love to come along, and I just could hardly believe she said yes. I was expecting her to say no, she's too busy. And she agreed to come and open the event, so it gave me a massive boost, like going from being really shy to meeting a celebrity and asking her to come to an event. It was like, it was a big shock, but she said yes. So 4 weeks later, the event happened. I didn't get 200 people there, unfortunately, but I did get 80. So
that's still good numbers.
Yeah, I was still blown away because I didn't. 80 people turned up. Everyone had a great time. They did all these different workshops. Like laughter therapy, NLP, hypnosis. They all tried these different 1 hour workshops. And Ruby came along and joined in like anyone else. She just joined in the laughter therapy, had like a shiatsu massage, and just was really lovely and supportive. And that was the biggest turning point. Realizing that I could create this event with 80 people, more or less by myself, with support from my group and all that, but I organised everything, and it was. I still think back to it, and it's just unbelievable that I could have done that. 5 years before that event, I was just leaving college and, in a totally different space, and then I'm just creating this event. It's that was like the biggest turning point then.
So after that, that's give you a huge amount of, kind of, I don't know if self-esteem is the word, but basically eradicated a bit of that fear to allow you to, okay, you can still go into situations and be nervous, but you can overcome it. You can do stuff in the world. Is that what kind of led you on to continuing after the event? Because I'm assuming the course finished then and you're back to work, and you've now continued. You run a website called Leading Light, yeah? Did that come straight after that? Or? Yeah, that was it. The Leading Light was set up for the event. That was the name of the event first of all. Oh, right, okay.
And then I just really wanted to do more on a regular basis, so I decided to set up a local support group. And again, I procrastinated a little bit, probably about 6 months, 6 to 9 months to get this set up. Because I was worried about, what I'd say to these people, where would I run the course, what days and all that. But I finally got over that barrier and and booked a venue, got people to come along, and on the first session there was 12 people turned up, and I was just really open with them. I said, I really want to help you guys, but I haven't planned anything. I just wanted to set up this group for people like us just to share our problems, and one person would share their problem and then other people would chip in and give advice, and it kind of worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another boost in confidence, that I could run something like that and help other people. Yeah.
So it wasn't really a group that had some kind of professional kind of help, it was just basically people with this kind of illness getting together and just sharing, basically, yeah?
Yeah.
And that in itself, did you feel like the leader in that? Were you offering advice, or was it purely a case of just sharing your stories?
Yeah, it was just a case of providing a space for people to be able to share anything they like, and get related to, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it kind of developed from there. I just was running the group in North London, and then 6 months later a friend of mine who was from the group told me about a meetup.com group. Meetup is like a social networking site for face-to-face events. And there was like an anxiety group which was closing down, and it had 150 members on there already. So what I did was took over that group and advertised, moved the group to central London and advertised it on the Meetup group. So then it started to build from there, and more people were coming, and some sessions we'd have 30 people turn up, and more members joining all the time, and developing like a leadership course and training people to run their own groups in the end. So it was all quite organic. I didn't set out to do any of this. It kind of just grew and started developing into something more over the year.
That sounds really good. So that's still going on just now? Are you still doing support groups, and I believe you have social groups and events as well, yeah? Is it still an active website? And are you still...
Yeah, it's all going... Yeah, it's all going strong. I'm doing the main regular group on Tuesdays, and what I do now is the first hour is like the support group. It's quite relaxed, and there's no pressure there to talk if you don't want to. It's all quite relaxed. And then from 8 till 9 there's more of like a public speaking element to it, and you get to stand in front of the group and you get asked a question on the spot randomly, and you get to respond and practice. And I found running that group and learning that as a skill, being able to respond off the top of your head, impromptu, like speaking, is useful to anyone, and it's really helped people realise that they can do that. And we're also, we're running another one on Thursdays, and also a social group every other Thursday. So I plan to have more groups all over the country, and do a bit more online. Online groups, because some people can't make it along to a face-to-face group. So it's at a really nice stage at the moment. I'm working more on developing it and making it bigger.
Yeah, sounds like a very useful thing. The more people can get together and share their problems, the better for everyone, I feel. We're all very much isolated these days in our house and our television, so that's part of what's probably causing this problem, because people are not used to socially interacting,
Oh yeah, definitely. That's the thing. With a lot of people, it's a strong belief that they are a certain way. Like, I believed that I was really shy, quiet, and I couldn't speak to people. I realised that I can learn how to be confident, and it's not because I had a belief about confidence itself, that you have to be really loud and outgoing and talk all the time.
Yeah.
That was just a belief of what confidence meant to me. So that was stopping me from becoming confident, because I thought confident was something negative in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all these kind of beliefs, and like from my upbringing of, going back to the Butlins incident and all that got reinforced over years of doing the same thing and being told I was shy, and my parents, I don't know, just the way they brought me up. It was a happy childhood. It was just, I guess my dad didn't really talk to me that much, and I don't know, I guess I wasn't encouraged in the way that I wanted to, but I realised that they did the best that they could do. So I definitely believe that I learned how to be socially anxious over my earlier years, and the more that I unlearn that and learn how to be confident, it gets less and less, and things are totally different to what they were 10 years ago. It's so much different.
So how are you today? Do you feel confident now? Do you feel as though you've kind of got a grips on this and that's something in your past and now you're just helping others because you can relate to it? Or do you still have moments of this anxiety that you can recognise it and then, okay, I'm dealing with this, and you can overcome it?
Yeah, I still get it in some situations, but I realise the patterns now. I realise that, for example, if I used to avoid the phone a lot and still find myself slipping back into avoiding the phone. Mm-hmm. But now I can become aware of when I'm doing it and, interrupt the pattern and just do it anyway. So I know every time I avoid something, I'm reinforcing the avoidance. Not to say that I can't miss out certain things, that's fine, but it's just knowing myself when I can challenge myself, and I don't let it stop me doing anything. I've been on radio and stuff, and just doing this interview now, I couldn't have done that even 5 years ago. Probably even more recently than that. I didn't like talking on cameras and all that kind of stuff. So I'm constantly challenging myself, and the times when I do work on my own, I sometimes do get a bit down. But I think most people are like that. If you're spending a lot of, a whole work day on your own, and you're not interacting with people, you're going to feel kind of a little bit isolated. But so I feel totally different now, and just want to do what I can to help others and get them to realise that they can do the same. I'm not anything special to get where I am. I've just kind of bumbled my way along into different things and ended up where I am, being more confident. And I just want to tell other people that you don't have to spend 10 years doing what I did. You can start taking small steps and just being aware of the times that things do slip back, that you are in control effectively.
Mm-hmm. Or they could go to your website, it's leadinglight.org.uk, and there's a free confidence MP3 download there. Start doing things like self-hypnosis and a little bit of research to kind of help them make the baby steps required. I think that, as you said, it took you 2 years to go to that group at the first time, and then like any alcoholic, it's like to say I am an alcoholic, it's that initial thing to kind of realise you've got a problem, and then slowly to start working on it. Yeah. You've also got you've also got a personal website, stevelight.org. Yeah.
So that's right.
You've been doing that for how long? About a year?
I can't remember when I started. Probably about 2 or 3 years.
And what's the difference with that?
Yeah,
That's just where you find stuff on the internet that's related to this topic, and you post it. Or I see you've started to interview people now as well, yeah?
Yeah, I started interviewing people. I'm just setting up Leading Light TV, which is just interviews. But my personal blog is just my thoughts about the areas I'm interested in: boosting confidence, business, social enterprise. Just my thoughts on different things, and Leading Light is the organisational side.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So you're going to start doing more interviews on your leadinglight.tv. Is that going to be the domain, yeah?
Yeah, I'm setting this up this week, and it's going to be finished by the end of the week. And I, excuse me, I find that I really enjoy doing that. It's weird because I never imagined that I would be in a position where I'm interviewing people, but I really enjoyed it. I get a massive buzz afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll agree you get the similar, probably even bigger buzz when you're on stage telling jokes.
When they laugh.
Yeah, when they laugh, exactly.
No, it's always similar. Like before a gig, it's impossible not to be nervous, I find, But it's just a matter of saying, okay, you're going to go through with it, try and prepare as best you can or whatever, do your best, and then after it, regardless, it's actually when you're on stage and you're actually starting to do it, that's when the fear kind of goes away, It's just the thought beforehand that's you build this thing up in your mind, and, oh no, what if they don't get this, what if I forget that, blah, blah, blah. And that's what the mind can do, it can run away, and that's what you've had an extreme case of, just that mental thing going way, way, way too far without being reined in. So once you can understand that, rein it and control it, and then once you start doing something, then it's no problem, Then after it, it's like, oh, what was I worrying about? And then you get the enjoyment, the endorphin rush or whatever for having done it, even if it's been a bad gig. To be honest, I'm just pleased I got through it, So it's just this thing about the mind has to be quieted. Do you ever meditate? Because I found I used to meditate. I don't do it so much now, but I found that quite useful to allow me to create a gap between me and my thoughts, Because when you meditate, you see your thoughts that come up, and then you can let them go, and you're like, hold on a minute, I am not actually my thoughts, Because a lot of time in life, we cling on to something, make an instant judgment, and then we go down that. But if you get a thought, you don't have to attach yourself to that, So when you get this fear attack, if you're going to meditate, you can take a step back from it and let it go, and then choose a more appropriate response. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I try and meditate quite often. I don't quite do it every day yet, but the times when I get to deep levels of relaxation, I realise that these anxious thoughts come up, and they're automatic. They're from the subconscious mind or whatever. They're memories from the past. They're not. Well, first of all, they're not useful, but second of all, they're not you as a person. They're just automatic things that are going on.
Yeah.
And the more that I realise that, I realise, that's when I can, if I get the automatic fear when I get a phone call and I don't know who it is, then I know that that's automatic, and I can just carry on regardless of that. But what I find is most people who find it difficult to meditate, they try too hard to meditate and then get more stressed. People trying to sit there and relax and closing their eyes, and they're tense first of all, and just expecting, I don't know, trying it for like 30 seconds and it not working, that kind of thing. I guess I was like that at first. Mm-hmm. When I tried it like 8 years ago, it's like, oh, this is crap, it didn't work. But you need to, it's like with anything, it's like a muscle, you need to keep doing it, and you can learn how to be relaxed. You can, if you meditate every day, it's going to have a effect on your general well-being. I'm pretty sure that's scientific fact. Meditating 10 minutes a day or something really increases your well-being. So yeah, I definitely recommend it.
So just to kind of wrap up, basically I was wondering if you had any advice for somebody out there just now, that's got these issues, feels, tense or whatever, what would you say to them about, first of all, dealing with it, and then second of all, about how they can go and get help?
Well, first of all, I'd say you're not alone, and just really understand that although it feels like you're totally alone and there's no way out of this feeling, you just need to reach out and take the first step. So if you can contact your GP first of all. Personally, I didn't want to go down the medication route because I wanted to overcome it myself. But if you go to a GP, you can get referred to a cognitive behavioural therapist on the NHS. So that's one option. And you can also contact different mental health charities like the ones in the UK, Anxiety UK or Mind, or there's Sane, just to get some advice. And if you can, join a local support group. It's just really useful to be with other people that understand, because it takes a big amount of pressure off, because you're holding on to all this and not sharing it, and you just get a chance to share it with other people. And I just think just taking those first few steps and getting that initial support, and then as much as you can just share with other people and just have it in the back of your mind that you can overcome it. It's not something that's fixed. There's not anything wrong with you as such. You've just learned how to be nervous over your lifetime. You might have had bad experiences or whatever's happened. It's not your fault, but you do have the power to change it, and there's plenty of help out there.
Just briefly, I'll mention, I've been listening to this guy, an Australian guy called, I think his name's Steve Richards, over the past few days, and he's basically describing how some certain things are coming through from past lives, and he's into the Aboriginal kind of old way of healing, where he kind of heals the spirit and stuff like this, and goes back into, regresses a person and clears up the trauma from a past life. And to me, when you explained to me that you were 2 years old in the supermarket, and you got this big terror, it sounded like some of the things he was saying, because up until that age we'd have no real reason in this life to be so scared, but just with that feeling of abandonment, it sounds like something's triggered from a past life, and then this became your reality, and you've kind of kept it in this life, So it's just who knows where these things come from. So as you say, the person's not broken. It could be just something happened in their childhood, or maybe from a past life. Who knows? But it's the reaching out there and trying to get help from it that's the important thing.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't looked much into past life stuff, but I remember you spoke with Cam Birdie about it recently, and I've heard that there is evidence for it, and I'm sure most of the medical profession would dismiss it because it's unquantifiable. But yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think for myself, I'm not sure, but I was born 4 months prematurely, and I was reading up that if you're born prematurely, you're stressed because you've come out of a warm place and you're too early, and you're just pretty pissed off, and that affects your kind of adrenaline levels. So I was looking at that and wondering if that contributed or not, or I was adopted by my grandparents, and my real parents were young, and all that kind of stuff as well, so abandonment stuff. So
Yeah.
I've really looked into it,
Yeah.
the different causes, but
Well, there's two examples,
Yeah, I think-
that could be causing it, yeah?
yeah, I think it was useful for me to look at those different reasons why it could have happened, but I think it kind of takes the power away a little bit, because I was blaming other circumstances for the way I was, and it wasn't until I took responsibility and started changing that it really helped.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
fully agree with that. It's just, I was just saying, if the person doesn't think they're broken, that's the most important thing, and then reaching out and getting help, and that is to taking responsibility for it, because some things
Yeah.
some things we do need help with, and especially with health issues and that type of thing. It's no good sitting trying to deal with it yourself. You really do have to get help in that particular area,
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you wouldn't mind people contacting yourself as well if they want to talk to you about these things, yeah?
Oh yeah, sure. Anyone can contact me through leadinglight.org.uk, or drop me an email on info@leadinglight.org.uk. Yeah, that's no problem. If anyone wants to ask any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Yeah.
And you're also on Twitter, yeah?
Yeah, Twitter, Steve Light 82 or Leading Light 101.
Okay. So if you're feeling a little bit stressed out there, folks, even, I don't know, I'm assuming, is there any other kind of aspects to this? Why people would contact you? There's different ways from, you were just saying social anxiety. I guess it goes to public speaking. If people are scared of that, you would be able to help them with that as well, yeah?
Yeah, I guess I see social anxiety as like a catch-all label for being afraid of any kind of social interaction or situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a term for everything. So any kind of anxiety-related issues which are holding you back, I suppose. Yeah, anyone. And if I can't help, I'll be able to pass you on to someone else. So.
Okay, great. Well, that's really good. Thanks for giving us your time today, Steve.
Thanks, Billy. I really enjoyed it.
Yep, I wish you all the best, and I don't know, we'll maybe hook up sometime in the future and see how things are doing then.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I really appreciate you doing that work. It takes a lot for somebody to come from where you've come to step out there and do organisations and put yourself in the firing line, so to speak, but it's benefiting you as well, I guess. You get a lot out of doing that, helping others, it's actually helping you at the same time, so it's all good, yeah?
Oh yeah, definitely. I get loads from it. I still get nervous before going to the groups, but it's more or less one of the highlights of my week, being there and helping other people there. It's fantastic, and I'm just looking at other people who can join me, who have kind of overcome these issues and want to give back as well. So there's so many other people that I've met who want to give back to others, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It does, I still have ups and downs, and went through a period where I wasn't running the group for about 6 months. Someone else was doing it. I was kind of hiding away again. But on the whole, things are so much better now, and it's just a privilege. It just feels natural to help someone else who's been through what I have. I don't want anyone watching this who's teenage years or early 20s to not get what they want out of life just because of these thoughts are stopping them. It's so sad to me that someone misses out on university or getting the job that they want or relationship because some negative pattern that they've got in their mind stops them. It's just I just want to help as many people as I can, really.
Okay, well, good luck to you. Wish you all the best, and thanks again for taking the time to be interviewed. Cheers.